All right, great. Good morning, everybody. Our topic for today is exploring some of the new 6.2 WordPress features. And as you know, on the 28th of March, 6.2, WordPress 6.2 was released. So yeah, we're going to dive deeper into that. So you've probably heard that the 6.2 version is called Dolphy. Why Dolphy? It is named after the jazz musician Eric Allen Dolphy, and you would have noticed that most releases are named after a jazz musician. It's just part of the WordPress tradition as well. So just in brief, this latest version of WordPress reimagines your site editing experience. It introduces more ways to style your site, and it offers a new distraction-free way to write. And of course, we'll jump into all of that. But before we explore, I thought I'm just going to look at I just want to drag this over. Sorry, there we go. Where is that one now? There we go. So I was going to look at the release post on WordPress.org. You'll see WordPress 6.2 Dolphy. And then if you scroll down, it says what's inside. It says meet the reimagined site editor, manage menus in more ways with the navigation block. So I'm just going to run through this, and then of course I'll go to my test website, and then we'll look at these things individually. Discover a smoother experience for the block inserter. Find the controls you want when you need them. So you'll see your block settings sidebar is better organized. You can build faster with headers and footers for block themes. There's a new collection of header and footer patterns, part of core. You can explore openverse media right from your editor or from the editor. There's a new distraction-free mode. You will also see that there's a new style book. You can get a complete overview of how every block in your site's library looks, all in one place, all at a glance directly in the site editor. You can also copy and paste styles now. You can add custom CSS. And then some other highlights is sticky positioning, importing widgets, and there's more fonts included as well. All right, so that's just a brief overview. If we look at the 6.2 post that went out, Catherine also shared that in the chat. So let's jump to my test website, and then we can delve a bit deeper. All right, so I'm here on my my test website. You'll see at the bottom it's version 6.2, and I have installed a block theme 2023. And the first thing you will notice when you hover over appearance is that the beta, the words beta has been removed from next to editor. Now, this of course came after multiple releases and evaluations, and this also does not mean that they will stop working on bug fixes and etc. We will still be working on enhancement, fixing bugs, etc. But yeah, we won't see the beta next to editor anymore. So the first thing I wanted to talk about now is distraction-free mode, because that's quite exciting, especially for those people who are maybe bloggers or who enjoy writing or write a lot on their site. So I'm going to make my way to pages. And I am just going to open up my About page. And then you will see I've got some dummy text here. Now, as you know, when you work in the block editor, every time you are on a block, the block toolbar appears. So if I'm here, the block toolbar appears. Of course, I can also open up my sidebar settings. You can open up your list view. So now let's say I'm writing. Okay, let's just add a block here. Writing content. This can get quite busy, right? And it can be a bit distracting. So one of the new options we have in 6.2 is distraction-free mode. So if you click on the 3 vertical dots top right, you will see spotlight mode. Now that's not new, but I just thought, let me cover that for those who don't know spotlight mode. It says you can focus on one block at a time. So with spotlight mode, everything will go gray, except the block that you're working on. So let's say I am working on this block, then this block will, of course, turn back into color, or this block, or this block. So that's another cool feature, but that's not new. But I thought maybe some people don't know about the spotlight mode option. Okay, so let's just turn that off for now and select the distraction-free mode. So it says write with calmness. So let's see what happens if I enable distraction-free mode. All right, so you will see that there's no external influences while editing. You can stay focused on your words and on your content. And if I select a block now, you will notice that the block toolbar does not appear, right? So now I can write without any distractions. It's basically, yeah, you and your words. So you'll see that, the editor screen changes. And this kind of feels more like a text editor than a block editor now. And yeah, it ensures that we have a simpler, more streamlined editing experience. And if you wanted to add a new block, you can just click on the inserter here, and you can add your block, or you can still say / and you can add a block right there. Okay, so, but what if you want to see your top toolbar? Well, you can just hover over the top, and then it will appear. There you will see the undo button as well. You can switch to draft. And of course, if you click on the 3 vertical dots, you can disable distraction-free mode. So yeah, this is a wonderful new option for folks who write a lot and who would prefer not to have all those external things around them while working in the block editor. All right. So that is distraction-free mode. The next thing I want to talk about is the smoother experience we'll have with the block inserter. So let's click on the block inserter, and then I'll show you what I mean. Okay, so the first thing you'll notice, usually we saw blocks and we saw patterns, but we never saw media. So that's new, and we'll talk about that now. But I thought, let's talk about patterns first. So they've made a few updates with patterns as well. To find patterns faster, they've changed the categories, firstly. So you'll notice, for example, posts that was always, I think, query loop. Catherine, if I'm correct, that was always query loop. And now it's posts, just so that people know when you're dealing with the query loop with these patterns, it is usually for posts. And there you will see it says display your latest posts in lists, grids, or other layouts. So you'll also notice we've got a split view. So on the one side, we've got our categories, and on the right side, we have a preview. And this is really neat. You can see your preview before actually inserting a pattern into a page or post. Let's go to call to actions, for example. And of course, these patterns are patterns that come with your theme. So yeah, it's great that you can see a preview and make a decision from here. All right. So let's just go ahead and let's add this into our. So I've just clicked on it, and now you will notice it inserted into my page. Now, of course, you won't find all the patterns that you want here when you are searching for patterns using the inserter. Just a reminder for those folks who are not familiar with that. If you go to the WordPress.org website and you go to download and extend and you click on patterns, you can search for any pattern you're looking for from the pattern directory. And when you find one that you like, you can just click on copy. And then you can paste. So of course, you've got two ways of adding patterns. But yeah, they've done a great job at making searching for patterns using the inserter a better user experience. I just wanted to also show when you click on the inserter patterns at the bottom, you can say explore all patterns. And then you can also search by category. And the nice thing here is that you get like a bird's eye view of all your patterns. Right. So as far as I know, patterns are vetted by the themes team, but maybe Catherine can answer that question. But yeah, as far as I know, any person can create a pattern and share it with the WordPress community. Okay, now the other thing that I'm excited about is the fact that you can use the inserter to add media from your media library, but you can also add images from Openverse. So, of course, in the past, you would have said, okay, let's say you wanted to add an image. You would have said, I'm going to add an image block. You'll select the image block. You'll go to your media library, or of course, you will upload from your computer. All right, now, of course, you can still do that if you wanted to. Or you can click on the inserter and you can go to media and then click on images. And now you will see a preview of all your images from your media library. And now you can just say, oh, I want that one, and I can insert it into my page. Now, if you had a video part of your media library, it would have said images here, then videos, then Openverse. So do you see that split screen again? As we saw the same when we looked at the patterns. So yeah, that's a wonderful way of interacting with your media library as well. And now we're going to get to Openverse. And I think this is going to be a game changer for a lot of folks. You can now add images from Openverse. Now, the first thing I wanted to mention, whoops, sorry, let me just press enter, insert media, Openverse. So the first thing I wanted to mention is that all the images that you search here are CC0 images, Creative Commons 0 images. So what does that mean? It basically means that these images don't have copyright and you can use them as you please. And you don't have to provide attribution. Basically, yeah, you don't have to, you can use those images on your website, whichever way you want to. So let's say, for example, I type in laugh. And now I say, I want to add this image. You can just click on it. And now this image has been inserted from, these images have been added from Openverse. So I'm just going to click update because I want to show you something really cool. So I've added this from Openverse, but this image will now be part of your media library. So I'll show you what I mean. So now if I click on the inserter, I go to media and images. Let's see if I scroll down. Oh, it only provides the first 10. That's also something to take note of, but you will see it says open media library. You've got another option here. So let's open media library. And you will see now, if we look top left, that image has been added to our media library now. So we've used Openverse, but now it is part of our media library. So that's really cool to know. So let's select the image because I want to show you the option in the block toolbar. It's, yeah, there's a caption, right? There's a caption, women friends laughing, and then you'll see the license of the image, etc. But because it's CC0 images, you don't have to provide any attribution. So you can safely remove the caption, and they actually provide you that option in the block toolbar. So I'll just click on that, and then the caption is removed, which is great. Something else that I wanted to show you with images that's added from Openverse is you've got an option here. You'll see this little icon. It says add text over image. And when you click that, the image is wrapped as part of a cover block. And now you can add text over image. Now, of course, ensure that there's enough contrast. I just want to open up my sidebar settings as well. Remember also to add your alt text for an image, for accessibility, and also for SEO purposes. But yeah, you can, I'm just going to undo that. You can use duotone, you can apply duotone here. And yeah, as I said, you can use these images as you please. Now, of course, and maybe I will just show you this. If you go, you can search for more things from Openverse. If you go to the WordPress.org website again, and you go to download and extend, and if you click on Openverse, so the image that darkened was when I oh yeah, maybe I should have shown that in the list view. But when I said add text over image, right? So we said add text here. And if we open our list view, you would notice that the image was added to a cover block. And with a cover block, of course, you can add text over images and video. And of course, the image darkened, or the opacity changed to ensure that there's enough contrast between the background and the text. Good question. All right, so I just wanted to show you, when you go to the WordPress.org website, you can actually browse through Openverse. You can go to the bottom, you can click on Openverse, or you can just go to openverse.org, and it says explore more than 700 million creative works. So yes, very important. If you come here, not all the images that will come up will be CC0 images, but you can use the filter options. So let's say, for example, I want images, and let's say I am looking for an image about elephants. I'll press enter. And then, of course, loads and loads of options will appear. But here below filter by, you can say, I want to see images, CC0 images, so without copyright. So we can select that, and then only images with that license will come up. And there's, of course, some other options here that you can use as well. All right. Let's jump back into our test website. The other thing that I wanted to highlight, let me just delete that as well. I'm just going to delete these for us for now. Okay, so the other thing that I wanted to show you was that the icon for settings has changed. And they've also split settings and styles. So yeah, the tools are easy to identify and access. And now when you, for example, select a block, let's select this image, for example, you will notice if you want to style it, you just need to go to the styles icon, and then you will have all your style options here, as in the past. And of course, this is also really helpful because when you clicked on settings in the past, the list became quite long and you had to scroll down to access things. And now, of course, when you go to styles, everything is right there. And if you go to settings, most things are right there in view. Cool. I also wanted to chat about the query loop. So we've looked at patterns, right? We've looked at patterns. So let me just press enter here for a moment. All right. We spoke about normal patterns, but as you know, some blocks have built-in patterns with them. And I wanted to just touch on the query loop block, because they've done some work on the query loop block as well. Of course, the query loop block is usually used to display posts and maybe even pages. So let's select the query loop block. Now you will notice if you click, you can say choose a pattern for the query loop or start blank. So we're going to say we want to search for a pattern. So yeah, selecting available pattern has been updated to a consistent interface. So now if you scroll down, you will see there's a border that goes around the pattern to show you what it will look like. Right. One thing I've heard as well is that there's more text patterns available for the query loop block, which is great. So yeah, it creates a more cohesive editing experience. So now let's say, for example, I want to add this pattern. Now you can, of course, start editing your query loop. So I only have added 2 posts. So you'll see there's actually 3 columns here. So let's open settings for the query loop. Let's make sure we select our query loop block in our list view. And now let's say, we want only to have 2 columns. And now let's say we want to show the post featured image. And now when we click here, you will see your settings and styles. So let's go to styles and say, let's change that, the height of the image, so that they are kind of similar. All right, so let's update that. So yeah, some work has been done on the query loop block as well, which is great. The last thing I wanted to mention is that when you go to list view, you will see there's another option next to it called outline. And this is to help you ensure that your headings are correct. So yeah, Catherine, I don't know if you wanted to add anything about the outline section.
I haven't actually explored the outline section too much, so I don't think I have anything to add at the moment.
But
there are some questions coming in. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just added a pattern here. So you will notice it says incorrect heading level. Now, usually when you create, when you add content, you want to ensure that your headings are correct. So it's, if you have a heading 1, then a heading 2, a heading 3. Yeah, so you want to ensure that your headings are correct, and this, of course, will help you, the outline section. And because I just added 2 patterns and I haven't looked at the headings, you will actually see it says incorrect heading level. And of course, now I can go ahead and I can fix that. Because that would be, your main page will be, this would be heading 1. So this about me should actually not be a heading 5. That can just be a paragraph text. So now I can change that to paragraph, for example. And maybe this could have been my heading for this section and then my text. So yeah, this is a great feature to help you to get your headings in order. All right, so something else, I'm going to jump to another test website of mine because I want to talk about importing widgets. So if you were using a classic theme and you had widgets that you want to add to your block theme, you can do that now. All right. So yeah, I just wanted to, is there something that I need to go through again? Okay, thanks, Catherine. I see you on that.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, I just realized I wasn't muted. I hope the typing wasn't too loud for anyone.
No, not at all. Not at all. But yeah, please stop me if I need to go over something that's being asked in the chat. But all right, so let's talk about importing widgets. So in this test website, you will notice I actually have a classic theme installed, the 2021. So you'll see I've got the customize, I've got widgets. So let's go to widgets. And you will notice I actually have a widget here that I want to use on my new theme. So I'm going to add a block theme. And of course, I don't want to lose all of this. And there's now I don't have to kind of copy and try and paste it into my new website. There's an easy option to import a widget from a classic theme to a block theme. And I'll show you how to do that quickly. So here's my widget. I'm going to go to appearance and I'm actually going to activate a new block theme. All right, great. And now I am going to go to my editor, the site editor. Let's click on templates. We'll talk about the site editor now, but yeah, the great thing now is you can transform your old widget into blocks by creating a template part. Right, so let's actually go to template parts, right? And I'm going to say, let's see if it works from here. Okay, no, wait, let me just do it from the template and see. Okay, I'm going to go to templates. Okay. And now I'm going to say / template part. Okay, let's start blank. So let's call it widget. And now, if you click on advanced in your sidebar settings, you'll see there's an option import widget area. And now you can import that widget from your classic theme. So I'm going to select that footer 1, and I'm going to say import. And now you will notice that your widget from your classic theme is a template part that you can use on your site now. So yeah, this is a great feature. If you are using a classic theme and you wanted to transfer these things. So if you go to template parts now, you will see the widget is there. All right. And that brings us to the site editor. You've already seen the site editor now, but I'm just going to use my old test website again. So let's just leave here, go to appearance and go to the site editor. And you will notice that this site editor looks much different. You've got this browse mode now. You're not thrown into a template immediately. You've got this browse mode section on the left. So now you can go through your templates, for example. Let's say your index template, and you will see the screen on the right, but you're not in your template yet. So you can just go back and say for a 4 template. So you can use this dark gray sidebar to browse through your templates. And then you can look at the frame on the right. And if you want to start editing your template, you can click on the pencil there, or you can merely click on your on the frame on the right, and it will take you into your template. Now, the great thing, they've also done some work on the navigation block. So let's open up our settings for, let's make sure we've selected our navigation block in the list view. Now you will notice that there's a new editable view of your navigation menu on the right. It's almost like the list view. We can close that, but it's almost like the list view for your navigation menu. And it just ensures that you also have a more streamlined process. In the past, I don't know, when you've been dealing with the navigation block, things could get a bit clunky trying to add things in here. But technically, you don't have to add a navigation item here. You can do all of it in your in this sidebar. You can add a new block. You'll have your your settings, your styles. One thing I also wanted to mention, there's also an option to lock this block, to lock your navigation block and inner blocks. And if you click on the 3 vertical dots next to menu, here you can select a different menu that you've created, or you can create a new menu. But yeah, a way more, it's a cleaner and more intuitive experience using the navigation block. So I think there's been great work done here to make it simpler for the user. All right, let's talk about styles. Now, as you know, you can use styles to change the style of your entire website. And they've made some changes here as well. So the first thing, if you want to browse some other styles that comes with your theme, you can click on Browse Styles. I just want to select, yeah, okay. So let's go to Browse Styles. And you will see it says choose a variation to change the look of the site. But you get this zoomed out view, or like a holistic view of your website now, if you browse styles. So let's choose this option. And the great thing is all these styles have been tested for accessibility. So now you can actually change the style of your website in one click. And the zoomed out view really helps. But now let's talk about this little eye that you see at the top, the style book. So the style book lets you customize your theme's style guide. So you can actually see all the blocks on your site as you make changes to it. And the changes you make here happens globally, of course. So you can go through all your blocks and see, you can look at the style of the block in the style book. So designs, widgets, and theme. Okay, so let's go to design, and I'll just show you here. Let's stop with a buttons block. So when you select a block in your style book, you will notice that you can now make changes here in the sidebar. So let's say, for example, let's click on colors, and let's say background. I'm going to change it to that color, and I'm going to change the text to white. So now I've made the change here in my style book, and now I can click save. And now I can go back to my site, and you will notice that all my buttons blocks have changed. But you will see there, that looks different now because that's a search block. So I can go back now to my style book, and let's say design or widgets. And you can make the change there now for your search block, for example. But let's say you actually don't want this change anymore. That's fine. We can just revert it back. So now you can click on Styles Actions, and you can reset to defaults. And now it will revert back, and I'll save there. Something else that I wanted to show you is that at the moment, you know, when you, I'm going to duplicate this. yeah, at the moment, you can even change the style variation. So at the moment, you've got a variation for your buttons block. So you can change that. You can even edit your style variation. There's some more options here. So you can say, oh, I want my style variation to look this way. And you can do that, which is great. All right, something else that I wanted to mention is that you can make a change to a block. You can make a change to a block in your block editor. And then if you like it there, so if you are working in context, there I worked in my style book. But let's say, for example, I worked in context in my edit or my block editor here and say, oh, my buttons block. So let's open up here. So let's open up my styles and say, so let's say I want this to be large. I want this to be bold. Okay, I've made a small change now, but now if you select that block, sorry, let me just double check that I'm on the right block. Yep. Now if you click on the 3 vertical dots, sorry, let me just double check. Okay, sorry. Okay, so there I've selected my block. Now I can click on advanced. Okay, so I've made that change to only that block, right? But now there's an option when you click on advanced, apply globally. And it says, apply this block's typography, spacing, dimensions, and color styles to all buttons blocks. So you can actually change it there as well. So yeah, that's also an option. So one more thing before I give over to Catherine. You can also copy and paste styling from one block to another. So let me show you. I'm just going to jump to my other test website to do this. So I am going to select my stack block here and say, okay, for this paragraph block, I am going to make some changes. All right. So first off, I am going to change the letter case in my sidebar settings under styles. And I'm going to say, I want this to be uppercase, right? The next thing, I'm going to select my buttons block and I'm going to say, I want this to be outline. All right. So let's say I've made all of these changes now. So now I'm going to select the stack block, this container block. I'm going to say copy styles. So this is a great option. So I'm going to say copy styles. Now I'm going to copy styles. Then I'm going to select this stack block below. And now I don't have to make any changes here, but I want this to look like that. So I'm going to click on the 3 vertical dots there. And I'm going to say paste styles. And now the styles from this block has been pasted to this block. So yeah, that's a lot of things to take in, but a lot of cool things that you can do with styles now. And then, of course, you would have noticed that CSS can now be added to the site editor. And I've asked Catherine to talk about this more. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen now and hand over to Catherine.
Thanks, Wes.
All right, so stop share.
All right.
Over to you.
Thank you. Can everyone see my screen? I can no longer see the chat. So Wes, if there's something in the chat I need to see, just let me know.
Absolutely.
All right. So I'm going to be talking a little bit about the new CSS editor features that came in with 6.2. And I'm really excited about this because CSS is one of my favorite topics. So thank you, Wes, for asking me to show this. So in the past, the way to add custom bits of CSS to your site with classic themes was here in the customizer. And I'm not going to have time to get into what is CSS and what does it do and how to write CSS, but just in a nutshell, CSS is a code that allows you to modify the look and feel of your site in different ways. And in the past, with classic themes like 2021, you would go to Appearance and then Customize, and at the very bottom, you'd have additional CSS. And this is where you could add little pieces of CSS. For example, this makes the site title purple. So this was in the past. Now we have block themes. Block themes are the themes that use the site editor and take advantage of being able to make edits to your site with the block editor. And in theory, you no longer have to write as much custom CSS to override things because you can do a lot more within the blocks. However, people realize that they still needed CSS in certain circumstances. And so with 6.2 came the ability to add custom CSS without needing to kind of hack your site, because as you see, there's no more customizer at a certain point when block themes came in. So with block themes, there's no more customizer, but there's still a way to now add a custom CSS. I'm going to show you what we have available. So if you go to the editor, and if we go and start editing any template, we'll click up here in our styles area. So a couple of new things have been added. If you click the second set of 3 dots, there's 2 sets of 3 dots, which can be a little bit confusing. So it's the second one, Styles Actions. If you click that, you will see something called Additional CSS. And that might sound familiar to you, right? Because it looks very similar to this. So you can think of this as more or less the equivalent of the old additional CSS panel in the customizer, except now here it is in our site editor. So the first thing to know is that, this is here as a sort of stopgap measure. I'm going to quote Anne McCarthy, who says, CSS is now intended to be a gap filler with the long-term aim for as much as possible to be handled in the site editor itself. So this is to be seen as kind of a temporary measure while more things are added to the block editor itself. So for example, someone asked in the chat, is there a way to style button hover states in the block editor? And the answer is not right now. So in order to do that, we'd need some CSS, which I'll show you in a moment. But down the road, that's probably a feature that's going to be added. A lot of people would like to change button hover states, so why not build that into the editor? But for now, we have the ability to put some custom CSS here. So before going ahead and adding custom CSS, you want to check, is what I want to do possible in the editor itself? So for example, let's say I want to change the color of my site title here. I can click my site title and I can see, is there the ability to change the color for this block? And if I go here, I see, in fact, yes, there is the ability to change the color. So don't write CSS basically for things you can do in the editor. That's not what it's meant for. So if you do come across something that can't be done in the editor, that's the opportunity to use this CSS editor here. So for example, what would be an example? Well, I'm going to show you something that you can do using the style book, sort of in conjunction with the style book. I'm going to click the style book, and I'm going to go to the quote block, because what you can do in the quote block is kind of limited right now. You can change the typography, you can change the colors, but let's say I wanted to have a fancy sort of initial cap. I wanted to have the first letter be in a different color and bold and larger. There's no way to do that here, right? So we're going to do that instead with the additional CSS panel. So this involves first writing your CSS, and this part is kind of the same as it would be pre this CSS editor. So the way I do it, and we're not going to get into this too much in depth because we don't have time, but the way I do it is I use my browser inspector. I see which element this is. I write my CSS in a code editor and I test it here. And again, this is just my method for validating that the code works. Once I know the code works, I take it and then I go ahead and paste it right here in the editor, and you can confirm that it works here as well. And you'll notice that this editor is very similar to the customizer editor. You can use code comments, you write out the selector that you're targeting, you have your property and value pairs, and then your curly brackets. And then you save it. And just like saving other things in the editor, it confirms you're saving this to your custom styles. You say yes, and then you can go to this test page I created. I can refresh the page and confirm, yes, this worked. All right, so that's in a nutshell an example of when you would use the site-wide editor. Also, in case you're wondering, where does this code actually go in your site? If you're curious about that, it goes in something called a section called Global Styles Inline. So this is some inline CSS in the head of your document, and it just appends it here at the end of all your other styles, which are being output by your theme. So it even includes the code comment, and you can understand what this is doing. So that's the site-wide editor. There are more examples, but we're probably not going to have time. So I'm gonna go ahead and show you the second type of CSS editor that there is, because I mentioned there were two. So this is the site-wide one. But oh, and one thing I just want to point out: as soon as you've added some custom CSS to the site-wide editor, if you scroll down, you'll see that it has added a new top-level item here in the styles area. If there's no CSS, this area does not appear. So it's just a quicker way to get to it once you've added some. I want to look at the per block CSS editors, because along with the site-wide editor, CSS editor, we also can have a per block CSS editor. So if you click blocks, again, this is a quick way to make edits to different blocks in your theme site-wide. So if I click heading, you can see that you can change various typography aspects, colors, layout, etc. I'm going to take an example of the list block. So I'm going to go into text here. Actually, I'm going to go into list item here. And you'll see that what if I want to, instead of these round bullets, I want square bullets? How do I change that? Well, first things first, you want to check and see, is that an option somewhere in the settings? It is not. So that's something we'll need custom CSS for. So the way to do it here in the additional block CSS panel. So each block has its own little editor, and it's meant to be used in a very specific way that you might not be used to, and I wasn't used to it, so it might be a little tricky to wrap your head around. But if you open this up, it actually looks like the site-wide editor, but it's different. It's different. It's different because what it's meant for is it's meant for just styling the block itself. All you have to do here is put the property and value pair. And see, look, now we've got our square bullets. These might be a little small on your screen, but they've turned to squares. So what's expected here is just the property value pair. And the reason is, I'm going to save this. If we go to our site here, and we go to archives, you can see that the archives picks up the list. The archives are displayed as a list. And what it's done here, if I look up the style that I just added, you'll see that what it's done is it's already added in the selector for me, the ordered list and the unordered list. And then what I put in the editor is just being sort of inserted in between. So that's why these per block editors are a little bit different, because it's doing part of the work for you. It's giving you the selector, it's giving you the curly brackets, and it's just injecting what you put in here. Now, if you're in a more advanced with CSS, you might start to think, your brain might start going, well, actually, there's other stuff I can put in here. I can nest different properties and values, and you can do fancy things for sure. But for most folks, I'd suggest that when in doubt, use the site-wide editor, because it's just going to be easier to wrap your head around if you're used to the additional CSS editor that was in the customizer. This is almost identical to it. So this is what I would suggest for most people. Now, I do want to show you the button example, because this is a common thing that people want to do. And there is no hover state in the editor that you can use. So this would be how to do it. One thing to note is hover states are not visible here in the style book. So you do have to save it and then look at it on your site on a page. and it does work. I just turned this purple. Looks horrible, but I use test purple because that's easy to see. And you can see that you can compare that to the default, and it's black. And yeah, there was a question about what was that flash of black earlier. And I think, in fact, it was a hover state because the default is black. So yeah, so things to remember: when in doubt, use the site-wide editor. The per block CSS editors only expect a property value pair in general. If you want to read more about CSS using the CSS editors, there's a page here which I helped work on, which I will put the link to in the chat. And the other link I wanted to give you is, if you're new to CSS, but you're maybe starting to get excited about the possibilities, I recommend the Mozilla CSS reference. So it's a great reference tool, and you can refer there. So I think I covered the basics. I know this is really, really fast, and I think maybe there were some questions, so I'm going to go back to some of those.
Thank you. There was one question for you in the chat, if you can get back to that. But thank you,
Yeah.
Catherine. Yeah, hopefully in the future we'll have a full session or online workshop just about CSS. So thank you, Catherine, for showing this great feature. That's part of the site editor now. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I am going to be 5 more minutes. I wanted to show you 2 more things, and then we'll say goodbye for the day. So if you want to stop sharing your screen, and I can go ahead and share my screen again, because I wanted to show you that you can actually create sticky headers or banners now in the site editor. Right, so share screen. There we go. Okay, so let's say, for example, you wanted to make this header sticky. You can do that. Or if you want to create a banner, you can do that now. But you first have to wrap your header into a group block. So if you select your header, you can click on the 3 vertical dots, and then you can say group. And now that you've grouped it, we can open up our settings, and we can scroll down to position. And then when we open up the drop down, you will see there's an option which says sticky. It says the block will stick to the top of the window instead of scrolling. So I'm going to select that now. And once I've selected it, you can actually test it out now. If you start scrolling, you will see it's stuck to the top. Now, the one thing is, at the moment, it's transparent. We don't want that. So we first have to change the background color of our group. So let's go to Styles, Background, and let's make it white. And now let's test it out. The cool thing is you can actually preview it in the block editor or on the front end. So now let's start scrolling, and you will see my header is sticky. So let's save that, and let's see it from the front end. I also wanted to show you, in the past, you had to kind of click back to go back to your dashboard, but now you can just click on your site icon on the WordPress icon. Okay, let's check the front end of our website, and now you will see my sticky header in action. Okay, so that's also something you can play around with, sticky headers or sticky banners. But the last thing I wanted to chat about was just header and footer patterns. So if I go back to editor, let's open up our template. Remember, I just click on the screen. Let's open up our list view. So for now, I'm just going to ungroup this again to remove the sticky if you wanted to. Okay, hold on. Was that the right thing? Ungroup. There we go. Save. Okay, so let's say I wanted to add a new header to my template, right? I can click on the 3 vertical dots, and I can say replace. I can replace this header. Now here you will see existing template parts, and here you will see patterns. And the great thing now with 6.2 is that they have added more header and footer patterns to core to democratize design. And it's regardless of what theme you are using. So now if you scroll down, there's a variety of header patterns to choose from, which you of course can modify as you please. And the same goes for footers. And that's all I have for you today. Catherine, is there anything that you wanted to add before we say goodbye? Maybe there's a question, a last question that people have.
Yeah, I don't think I have anything else to add. I think I answered the CSS related questions, but if there was anything else, I'm happy to answer anything else.
Yeah.
Any plans for a sidebar template part? So I think there already is a sidebar template part. It might not be called sidebar, but you can put, for example, a footer template part. You can put it on the side if you want. I'll have to look and see if, yeah.
I just want to go to tutorials. If you say sidebar, if you go to, yeah, you can build sidebars with a site editor. There is a, Catherine, if you can maybe share that, or I can do that now. Let me just grab that and I can share it in the chat. There we go. Cool. Any other questions about what I've shown? Yeah, Catherine also said a sidebar can be sticky using the new sticky option, which is cool. All right. Well, yeah, thank you for that information as well, Em. Yeah, it was great seeing all of you. Now it's your turn to go and explore all these new features. And we will see each other. We will see each other next week. Thank you, Catherine, and thank you everyone for joining. And we'll see each other next time. Cheers.